evening. Welcome to the Manu Sharma Show. Our first guest for tonight is Ms. Pratima Singh, who has worked over 17 years in top-notch financial institutes as ABN AMRO and ING. And she's a founder of OFBJP, one of the biggest Indian diaspora organizations in the world. Welcome, Ms. Pratima Singh. Could you tell us about yourself? Where are you from and which factors led you to moving to the Netherlands?
I'm from India originally. I was born and raised in Pune, which is the educational capital of India. So you have the highest amount of schools and colleges in Pune. My roots are from Uttar Pradesh, from the holy city of India, which is Varanasi. My father is from there. And I grew up in the defense system in India, so that's where I am from. And I take full pride in saying the defense system because it is a classy, one of the world-class systems that the world has seen about India. I came to the Netherlands about a little more than a decade ago. Basically, I was working with an American company, startup, which is a North Carolina-based startup. And my husband was here. We were having a long distance. My daughter was born. And I was one of the nagging moms saying that, okay, I'm not happy being alone with my daughter. But I came here twice, first as a tourist, just did all the touristy things. So the first time I came here was for a month. And the second time I came here was for 2 months. And that's when I came to know that the happiest children in the world are in the Netherlands. So that was one of my biggest drivers because I was a new mom. And second was also that I got a job opportunity with ABN. So for me to resign with the American firm became a lot easier to take up the new challenge with ABN AMRO. Okay. So these were the two prime drivers, yeah.
You have worked on multi-million euro programs, one being building a regulatory intelligence database in the financial industry. On the first 30 days on the job, what were you expected to achieve?
I think irrespective of the organization that you join and irrespective of the size of the organization that you join, the first 30 days, it's important to understand few things. One is what is the organization in terms of what's their goals, what's their culture. Second is what is the department goals and department culture. Then there are 3 elements, people, process and systems. Every organization has their own set of colleagues and people that you need to know what their backgrounds are, what their skills are, what their core competencies are, how you could complement each other in terms of soft skills as well, like in terms of personalities and so on and so forth. Okay. And I think if in the first 30 days, if you can absorb all this and understand what the goals of your department is and also prepare a plan what your individual goals will be and how you will contribute towards that, I think that's really already a good start for any organization.
What are the key design challenges in the industry for the current climate?
If you look at the industry as a whole, one of the things that you see really moving fast is change of technology. So you have blockchain, you have artificial intelligence. These are the latest things that we never heard about, say, 10 years ago. Then the challenge is how quickly people can really grasp and learn this new technology and adopt it within the organizations. Recently, there are new methodologies like Agile framework, known as SAFe. And these are amazing tools in order to deliver operational efficiency or deliver good quality software or deliver what the customer requires. And these are things which are absolutely new. And I think the quicker, the faster you can adopt and adapt within the organization, that would help the organization to be a front runner in every sphere, in that sense.
With how many countries did you work?
Well, I really had the opportunity to work with 35 nationalities, to be precise, 35 plus. My first 7 years of my career was primarily with American companies. Then I moved on to a lot of European companies. I have worked with Benelux, which is Luxembourg, Belgium and Netherlands. I worked with Central and Eastern Europeans, which is Spain, Romania and so on and so forth. I worked with Western Europeans, which was France, Germany, the UK, for example. I also worked with colleagues from Dubai and Singapore. The last assignment with ABN AMRO, we were in 15 plus countries. The initiative that we were doing, so we did have to talk across nationalities. Because I've always held global and cross-border functions, I've always interacted with colleagues who were either from Russia or China and so on and so forth. So it has been very pleasant, yeah.
What challenges did you face while managing stakeholder groups for over 15 countries and how did you overcome them?
I think what happens is when you have stakeholders which are huge in terms of numbers and volumes, especially when they're sitting in different geographies, One of the things that you constantly see is cultural differences. So certainly the way of working is not same. For instance, even when you cross the border from Netherlands to Belgium, it's totally different styles. Second is that the information alignment. So sometimes Netherlands has the information which is much more than what UK has and what the other geography has. So I think the challenge becomes, how do you get the information aligned and how you get everybody, all your stakeholders at the same information level. Third is that also, in terms of decision making, you and systems that they are using, you have different landscapes. So the decision making process in different geographies is different, and their own localization is that you need to be aware about, and also the system landscape. So I could be using, say, an IBM tool, whereas you could be using a Microsoft tool, but we need to find out a way where we do understand each other's reports or synergies.
As your experience being a consultant, how do you identify whether a company has a silo working culture?
Yeah, fortunately I had the benefit, if you look at my profile, I had the benefit to work with startups and I had the benefit to work with very large corporates, yeah. And what you see with big, large corporates is that they grow so rapidly that sometimes you build pillars which are not talking to each other, yeah. Some of the signs of silo culture is that you have duplicate reports, you have duplicate spends, you have operational inefficiency, you have bureaucracy, you have power play, and so on and so forth. So you do see that in silo structure, and you do have people sitting like this with the information than sitting like sharing information. Yeah. How do you overcome that? I think it starts with education and awareness. So you really explain to the people about the operational inefficiencies of doing things twice and building two pillars which need to actually build like this and not in parallel. Right. Yeah, making the value chain very clear. So the start of the process to the end of the process. Let's drive from start of what you're giving as a product to understanding the voice of the customer. That's really important, because if everybody understands that entire value chain process, they also understand where they fit into that process and not duplicate their efforts. Yeah, killing the bureaucracy, and I think that's HR or human resource department plays a vital role about organizational structure. Also the department, the people play a vital role, and I think the Netherlands is a great country in that sense, because you do not have hierarchies with bosses. I still remember a colleague of mine telling a big shot manager of ours who was a C-level guy of saying, I reserve the meeting room, so I deserve it first. So that clearly shows that they don't believe in hierarchies or sirring attitude or whatever. So that's really immensely powerful. Another thing that helps is dual reporting lines. So if you have two people watching on an employee, or two people who are looking at the same reports, we call it the 4I principle. It really works, because you then make sure that proper due diligence is done on your work patterns. In one of the organizations that I was working for, we had a tremendous amount of policies. There were policies who were made by different departments, and each department was telling the organization, and policies are basically the interpretation of the regulation, and the regulators are asking things. Because we were silo, we had credit risk department saying something else, operational risk department saying something else, legal department saying something else, and all related to the same regulation. And what you realize is they're saying sometimes even the same things, but to different stakeholders. And then what you end up doing is build an ivory tower in your own silo. And that is something that you need to do, is a gap analysis. Okay, what's going on in the entire landscape? You look at the whole helicopter overview of what's going on and what is the regulator asking and what is the policy and so on and so forth. So we actually deleted a lot of policies, and we said these policies are not relevant anymore because it's happening in this part of the organizations. And that's how you take baby steps to bring about operational efficiency.
How did you transition into the field of politics from your previous career?
Yeah. I am very happy that you asked this question, because we are not a political organization. I am the founder and convener of OFBJP, which stands for the Overseas Friends of the Bharatiya Janata Party. We are very transparent about our political affiliation to the BJP, which is the current ruling party of India. What OFBJP also gives me is an opportunity to interact with best of the breed of Indians across 40 different countries. So we are in 40 different parts of the world. You have the best of the doctors, best of the engineers, coming from different walks of life, professors, teachers, entertainers, and so on and so forth, all working on one mission. In the Netherlands, we started OFBJP in 2015. Currently, we are engaged with the Amstelveen Gemeente, for example, for several initiatives. We are involved with the Hindustani Suriname community, who are persons of Indian origin, and we are about 30,000 Indians with plus and minus 6,000 floating population. There are different kinds of cases we handle. For example, we've handled cases right from students suffering in colleges, and there have been also cases where there have been dead bodies of people who need to go back to India for the final cremation. We do work very closely with the embassy for that, and we try to make sure that if there is someone who needs assistance, we try to facilitate that.
Can you tell us something more about OFBJP, what we don't know?
This year we're going to be lobbying heavily with the Dutch authorities to unite grandparents with grandchildren. For example, the visa policy right now allows only a stay of 3 months, and most Indian parents think that, oh, who's going to go for 3 months? They have their inhibitions and apprehensions with the cultural boundaries, and that's something that we want to lobby, where we say, can the Dutch government allow visa for 6 months for parents above 55 years, because we know the life expectancy in India is not very big, and as a consequence what they do is something very humane, very powerful, and also very giving to unite the grandchildren. Because my child, my daughter for example, saw very little of my parents or my parent-in-laws to really absorb so much from them. Like my dad was one of India's international renowned scientists and highly decorated, right hand of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, worked with 3 prime ministers, and I'd love my daughter to benefit from what he had, but unfortunately that did not exist because of whatever reasons. But one of the big reasons is that the long-term stay of the visa, like you have in the United States for 6 months, I hope the Dutch government takes for it.
How did you collaborate with all the political parties in the Netherlands?
Fundamentally, politics is not a goal. Politics is a means to achieve the goal. These leaders are standing up for meeting certain goals, which are change that they speak about, and we as the people vote on these change. So for us it becomes very important to talk to these people in order to understand 2 things. What are the expectations from these leaders or politicians? And second, what are the things that are challenges for our community that they can be educated about. So it's twofold: to understand what they expect from us as Indian diaspora, and second, what are the challenges that we face, whether it's integration or whether it is education or whatever, you know. So there are several topics, but it's very important to understand what they're looking for and where are the meeting points and what can we learn from them.
Thank you very much for this interview and for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you.